The story of Stephen Colbert's departure from The Late Show begins with a sense of disbelief that quickly spreads into public controversy. For years, the program stood as a pillar of American late-night television, consistently leading in ratings and earning critical acclaim. It was not just another talk show in a crowded lineup. It was the flagship of CBS's late-night identity and a cultural touchpoint for millions of viewers. So when news began circulating that the show was being canceled, the reaction was not simply sadness. It was confusion mixed with skepticism. The numbers did not suggest decline. Viewership remained strong. The show continued to dominate its time slot, and its cultural relevance had not faded. Yet behind closed doors, decisions were already being made that would end a 30-year legacy of the Late Show brand on CBS. What made the situation more striking was the absence of a clear narrative that aligned with its apparent success. Instead, a cloud of unanswered questions formed around timing, motivation, and internal network pressures. For audiences who had followed Colbert through satire, political commentary, and deeply human conversations, the idea that it would all end so abruptly felt less like a planned transition and more like a sudden erasure of something still very much alive. The decision behind closed doors. Behind the scenes, the cancellation of The Late Show unfolded with a level of secrecy that later fueled speculation. According to accounts circulating around the entertainment industry, CBS executives had been weighing the future of late-night programming amid shifting financial realities. Traditional broadcast television was no longer the dominant force it once was, and advertising revenue for late-night slots had been steadily eroding. Even successful programs were becoming harder to justify financially when compared to cheaper or more digitally adaptable alternatives. Still, the timing of the decision raised eyebrows. Reports suggested that Colbert's team was not immediately informed, and that even his own management was aware before he was. While Colbert was on vacation, away from production and routine meetings, internal discussions were already shaping the end of the program. When the decision became final, it was framed publicly as a business move, detached from politics or content. Yet, within industry circles, the abruptness of the announcement led many to question whether financial reasoning alone could fully explain it. The fact that such a high-performing show could be retired without a gradual transition only deepened the sense that something more complex was influencing the outcome, even if those details remained behind closed doors. The on-air goodbye that preceded the official announcement. When Stephen Colbert finally addressed the cancellation on air, the moment carried a quiet weight that contrasted with the usual energy of late-night television. Rather than delivering a dramatic or combative monologue, he chose a measured tone, speaking directly to the audience that had supported the show for years. He expressed gratitude toward the crew, the writers, and the production team who had built the program day after day. What stood out most was not anger, but restraint. He made it clear that the show would not be continued under a new host or format, but would simply end entirely. That distinction landed heavily with the studio audience, who responded with audible disappointment and boos. Colbert acknowledged their reaction without attempting to soften it, instead affirming that he shared their feelings. The moment revealed something essential about the relationship between host and audience. It was not just entertainment, but a shared experience that had developed over years of nightly viewing. By addressing the situation directly, before the network's official rollout of messaging, Colbert effectively reframed the narrative. It was no longer just a corporate decision. It was a farewell delivered in real time, on his own terms, even if the circumstances were beyond his control. Political controversy and the bribe accusations. As discussions around the cancellation intensified, attention quickly turned toward a controversial sequence of events involving political commentary and corporate decision-making. Just days before the official announcement, Colbert had addressed a high-profile settlement involving Paramount and a legal dispute tied to political figures and media coverage. During his monologue, he characterized the payment in sharply critical terms, suggesting it resembled improper influence rather than a routine legal resolution. That segment immediately gained traction, not only among viewers but also among political commentators and lawmakers. Soon after, the cancellation of The Late Show was announced, prompting speculation about whether the timing was coincidental or connected. Public figures, including lawmakers and entertainment unions, called for scrutiny, arguing that the overlap between political pressure, corporate mergers, and regulatory approvals created an environment where decisions might not be purely financial. Meanwhile, supporters of the official explanation maintained that late-night television was already in structural decline and that the show's ending reflected broader industry trends. The absence of definitive evidence linking the monologue to the cancellation ensured that debate remained unresolved, but it added a layer of tension to an already emotional farewell. What might have otherwise been a straightforward business decision became a focal point for questions about media independence and influence. The economics behind late night's decline. Beyond the controversy, there is a broader structural reality that cannot be ignored. Late-night television has been under increasing financial strain for years. Even programs with strong ratings have struggled to maintain profitability in a rapidly changing media environment. Advertising revenue, once the backbone of broadcast television, has shifted toward digital platforms where audience targeting is more precise and measurable. At the same time, younger audiences have moved away from traditional 11:30 p.m. viewing habits, preferring clips, streaming highlights, and on-demand content. This fragmentation has made it difficult for networks to justify the high production costs associated with nightly shows featuring large writing staffs, production crews, and celebrity bookings. In Colbert's case, estimates circulating in industry reports suggested substantial annual losses, even for a top-performing show. While the exact figures vary, the underlying point remains consistent. Success in ratings does not always translate into financial sustainability. Networks have increasingly explored lower-cost alternatives, including syndicated formats and panel-based comedy shows. In that context, the decision to end The Late Show fits into a larger pattern of restructuring rather than an isolated incident. Still, the cultural weight of the program made its cancellation feel far more significant than a typical business adjustment. A life shaped by loss and resilience. To understand Stephen Colbert's approach to his work, it is impossible to ignore the personal history that shaped him long before television fame. At the age of 10, he experienced a devastating tragedy when his father and two of his brothers died in a plane crash. The event permanently altered the course of his family's life and left an emotional imprint that he has referenced throughout his career, though never in a way that seeks sympathy. Instead, he has often spoken about resilience, faith, and the challenge of rebuilding a sense of normalcy after profound loss. Raised in a large family, he learned early how to navigate grief in a shared household environment. Later in life, he also went through a period of spiritual questioning, stepping away from his religious upbringing before eventually returning to it in a way he has described as unexpected and personal. These experiences did not directly lead him into comedy, but they shaped the emotional depth that would later define his performance style. Rather than relying solely on humor for entertainment, his work often carries undertones of reflection, empathy, and moral inquiry. That combination of comedy and seriousness became a defining feature of his public identity, setting him apart from many of his contemporaries in late-night television. From improv stages to national recognition, Colbert's professional journey began in theater and improvisational comedy, where he developed the foundational skills that would later define his career. After studying theater in college, he moved into the Chicago improv scene, a competitive environment known for producing influential comedic talent. There, he worked with peers who would become long-term collaborators, experimenting with sketch formats and character-driven comedy. His early television work included writing and performing in smaller sketch projects, which eventually led to opportunities in larger productions. A pivotal moment came when he joined The Daily Show in the late 1990s, initially in a correspondent role. Over time, he became one of the most recognizable figures on the program, refining a satirical persona that would later evolve into The Colbert Report. That character, a fictional conservative commentator, became a cultural phenomenon, allowing him to explore political satire in a highly stylized form. This period established him not only as a comedian, but as a sharp observer of media and politics. His transition from ensemble work to leading his own show marked a turning point, proving that his voice could carry a program independently and resonate with a national audience in a highly competitive television landscape, transforming The Late Show into a cultural force. When Colbert took over The Late Show, expectations were high, but the transition was not immediately smooth. The show initially struggled to define its identity after the long tenure of his predecessor, and early ratings reflected uncertainty. Critics questioned whether his background in character-based satire would translate into a more traditional talk show format. However, the political climate soon shifted dramatically, and so did the show's tone. As national events became more polarized, Colbert's monologues grew sharper and more pointed, aligning the program closely with current political discourse. This shift resonated with audiences, leading to a steady rise in viewership. Over time, the show became the most watched late-night program in its category, maintaining that position for years. Beyond ratings, it also developed a reputation for deeper interviews that went beyond promotional appearances, often engaging guests in unexpectedly personal or philosophical conversations. The format evolved into something more flexible than standard talk show structure, blending comedy, commentary, and emotional reflection. This evolution helped solidify the program's identity as not just entertainment but a space for cultural conversation, setting it apart from competitors in the late-night landscape. The final weeks and industry farewells. As the end of the show approached, the final weeks took on the atmosphere of a shared farewell across the entertainment industry. Rival hosts appeared as guests, not as competitors but as colleagues acknowledging the significance of the moment. The presence of multiple late-night figures on the same stage underscored the unusual unity within a typically competitive space. Longtime collaborators and influential figures in television history also returned to the Ed Sullivan Theater, adding historical weight to the closing chapters. Conversations during these episodes often reflected on the evolution of late-night television itself, as well as the personal journeys of those involved. The tone was less about competition and more about legacy, memory, and transition. Even external figures from politics and culture participated in the broader conversation surrounding the show's ending, highlighting its reach beyond entertainment. In these final appearances, the program became less about current events and more about reflection, as if the format itself was folding inward to examine its own history before concluding. The sense of closure was collective rather than individual, shared among guests, hosts, and viewers alike, a legacy measured beyond ratings. By the time the final episodes were announced, The Late Show had accumulated a record of awards, long-term rating success, and cultural influence that few programs in television history could match. Yet its ending raised a fundamental question about how legacy is measured in modern media. Financial performance, audience size, and critical recognition all pointed toward continued viability, yet the show was still concluding. This contradiction reflects the broader instability of traditional broadcasting in an era dominated by streaming platforms and fragmented audiences. For Colbert personally, the end of the show also marked the closing of a professional chapter defined by both public visibility and private discipline. The routine of nightly performance, writing, and live audience interaction had shaped his life for more than a decade. As he moved toward future creative projects, including film work and writing, the transition represented both an ending and a beginning. What remains is not just the memory of a talk show, but the recognition that late-night television itself is undergoing transformation. Whether The Late Show ends as a casualty of economics, culture, or something more complex, its legacy will likely be defined by how it captured a specific moment in American media history.